Hello and welcome to Back to the Drawing Board, an architecture podcast for architects and students. I am your host, Phil, architect and director at PWS Architecture and Design, and this is my co-host and intern, Theo.
Aries.
Today, we're going to talk holidays.
Yeah.
Not that we do them very often, but
we
when we do them,
when we do them,
we do them right.
We do them right.
Yeah.
So we're going to tell you how to do them right.
What we've tried to do in this is limit, because this could be
long.
Yeah. So what we've tried to do is give ourselves a city, and this is going to be a long series, I think. And what we're going to start on with is a country, a city, so that we kind of narrow everything down, and then we're going to narrow it down into 5 buildings or architectural interests. We'll give you a little bit of information on that, and then at the end we'll probably do a summarise of other things that can be done either in the area, in the country, in the city, whatever it is.
What's so good about it?
Yeah, basically. And obviously, like I say, this could be a continuum thing. So today we've got
Barcelona,
and I've got Reykjavik. So these are both places we've been. Obviously in the future there's probably going to be ones we haven't been to. I think eventually, if we ever get the opportunity, if you subscribe to our Patreon for £1 a month, as little as 3p a day, we'll be able to actually afford to go on a few more of these city breaks, maybe even start doing like daily vlogs in these places to give people ideas of where they should be going, what they should be seeing, and an insight into it.
For £1 a month you can get us on holiday for your enjoyment.
But what a busman's holiday. What a busman's holiday that would be.
For your enjoyment, pay us please.
So should we do it in alphabetical order? Do you want to start with Barcelona?
Yeah. That's how we planned it. Alphabetically.
It's got nothing to do with the slideshow.
No. Oh, conveniently.
How convenient.
What a slideshow we've got. So obviously a key thing is these are places that Phil and I have both been to. So I went to Barcelona last year.
I've been to Reykjavik twice.
Have you?
Yeah.
I've been once, but it's not all about me. Except from right now it is. I went to Barcelona last year in 2023. The Sagrada Familia was still not complete.
Is it 2026 it's due?
That's when they expect it. Oh! What do we have here?
What might that possibly be?
It's a picture of the Sagrada Familia. These are, there's so many famous ones in buildings in Barcelona.
Yeah, I did tell you can't just have 5 Gaudí buildings.
Trying not to do all Gaudí. So when I went for 3 days, and we planned to go and see quite a few, and we ended up seeing pretty much all Gaudí.
Yeah.
So we've got my kind of idea here is you could do this as like a 5-day tour. If you're so into it, you could do like a building a day, because that's what me and my mum did. Is we basically spent a day in a building.
Yeah.
And we went there from like just after it opened until we got kicked out. We got there late, which was really annoying because we only had about 3 hours in it. Which was, for the biggest building, we spent the least amount of time in it. But yeah, obviously designed by Antonio Gaudí. It can be found near itself. If you're looking for a landmark to get you there, it is the landmark. It's the first thing you see when you fly, drive, or sail into the city. And it's not even the tallest building. It's just like, you see it and you're like, oh crap, there it is.
I imagine it's a bit like the Eiffel Tower and stuff, where if you just follow the crowd of people moving, they're going in that direction. Yeah.
And now our hotel was about 5 minutes away, and so we were asking the receptionist, we were saying how to get there, and she goes, oh, basically you go along that street, and then once you see it, you walk towards it. And we were like, okay, but like, is there not a few more turns? And she was like, yeah, you'll see it from about 5 blocks away.
Yeah, because Barcelona's set out in lots of
it's
like
a grid system.
Yeah, it's a grid system. So anytime you look up a street, you'll see to the end of the street. Because I've seen it from above, and you've got it basically sort of converges into that.
Following the directions are great, because you follow this street for 1 mile, turn left. Follow this street for 1 mile. You have reached your destination. It's similar in Glasgow, which surprised me when I first moved there, because it's also a medieval city. Yeah. But they've laid out in a grid. But yeah, if you're looking for it, you'll find it. It's such an easy building to come across. It began construction in 1882. It opened in 2010, and it's expected to be finished in 2026. It's going to have been under construction for 144 years.
Is that? I'm assuming that's a world record. Like, there's no other building that's taken that long. In recorded history, obviously, there's probably way back when Well, there've been buildings that were going on for probably. I'm thinking pyramids situation, but I suppose they had that many people working on it, that many hands.
China, Great Wall of China.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if that's recorded history, then fair enough. I will.
Began in 400 BC, and Jesus, it ended in AD. I'll say that.
Yeah, it was. It already wins. Bloody hell.
Oh, that's impressive. But yeah, 144-year construction project is impressive. Yeah, it's got to be maybe the most culturally significant building in the city. It's a basilica, which is like the highest ranking a church can get. It's above cathedral.
So no one's converting that into apartments then?
No, I reckon that might just be a listed building. Apparently one of the problems they had was...
Is it not UNESCO?
Yeah.
I was going to say.
Stage 5 listed. Don't touch that staircase.
If it's in the UK, it'd be a scheduled ancient monument, but if it's UNESCO, it's even like it's above.
Bigger, yeah.
Bloody hell.
I know.
It doesn't surprise me. Like I'm saying that as if I'm surprised that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a work of art as well as architecture.
Yeah, you mainly see pictures of the outside, but even once you go in, you're like that's what takes you back. And I think you always see it from far away to try and capture the entire thing. But as you're getting closer,
yeah, there's details, isn't there?
There are details within details. On the front door, they've got like this copper vine that they've like sculpted, and then there's like beetles and bugs crawling through it. Jeez. It's like that level. It's ridiculous. That's the pillars insane. Have like they're like mounted on these giant turtles and stuff.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, to go in, you have to go through something better than airport security. They've got armed guards and metal detectors. It's like no one's getting in there and doing anything wrong.
Fair enough.
But what really impressed me with it as well is once you go in, the amount of like respect there is for the space, and that it's silent. It's like full all of the time, and yet no one says it. You hear like whispers here and there, and it's always functioning as a church. So even when
it's even though it's not fully built, it's still functioning as a church.
Yeah. Well, that's it. It opened. What did it say? 2010.
Well, I didn't know if it opened for tourism, but if it's open for like church use, bloody hell.
So you go in and they've got I'm not sure what the room within the church is, but they've got a room where they do an evening mass every day.
All right.
Yeah. But yeah, they do.
God, imagine being able to say you were like one of the.
I had a little sat down. I think it converted me a bit, sitting in there going,
I'll take my mum.
No person could have created this. Antonio Gaudí, what a legend. He was definitely demigod. He must have been.
Maybe we do a thing on like instead of starchitects, the gods of architecture.
Gods of architecture, yeah, above the stars.
A bit like the Roman gods, where you have like the god of hate, the god of love, the god of fight. You have the god of modernism, the god of...
That's definitely. I think I never got when they said Gaudí was modernist. I get he was around when everyone was doing Gothic stuff, but it's when you see the sculptures that are on this thing and they're all like so sleek, and it's like beyond like all the detail. There's a lot of really like just weird modern stuff that you think how was this designed 140 years ago?
That's crazy.
It was an intense building to be in.
Yeah, I bet.
Like, it was mad. The next one I've gone for is my only other Gaudí building. It's Casa Vicens, and this is a picture they have inside of the model because you don't get to see this now, but that's the original site that it was on.
All right, yeah.
Yeah, and this was considered to be his first major work.
Right.
And this was...
Presumably then the former was his last significant work because it's still going.
Because it's still going.
Yeah.
The former started construction in 1882.
Yep.
This started construction in 1883.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was finished in 1884.
It was finished in 1885, and it was considered to be his first major work, even though he'd already started work on the Sagrada Familia. How mental is that?
So he's bookended his entire career with the Sagrada Familia.
Yeah, literally. Nice. And then everything else kind of... So this one's a lot of straight lines. It's his most normal one. But, I mean, obviously that doesn't do it. Just the amount of stuff going on there is like a sensory overload. And that was another one. We turned up in the morning and we left in the evening. Me and my mum just spent all day. I saw her about 2 times that day because we both just went our separate ways around
separate directions.
Yeah. But it started off in this nice big site, and then they sold that site, and over time it's moved into this like terraced street. And you're walking down it and you're thinking there can't be any like building of significance on this, and then you kind of just look up and you're like, oh, it's there.
Yeah.
And it's like this old Victorian road that's maybe 5 meters wide.
Yeah.
Then you look up and because you just see the flash of color.
Yeah.
And it's like, what the hell? But yeah, it's the fact that this was considered his first and construction started 2 years after his last. What sense does that make? But yeah, that was insane. He held no punches on that one.
Yeah.
It's got waterfalls running through the building and all sorts. The next one is another one that I think every architecture student will reference and probably be waiting for me to say.
Yeah. That's the one I was waiting for, other than the Sagrada Familia.
The Barcelona Pavilion by Mies van der Rohe. Someone else also built it, but he got a lot of credit. I should have put that on there.
Yeah, it's probably one of those, like, every time we did a scheme in university, someone would reference it at some point.
Yeah. Mies van der Rohe and Lily Reich, or Reich, depending on what the pronunciation is. So it's called the Barcelona Pavilion, but it was the German pavilion for the International Expo in Barcelona. And obviously, they've still got it. That's pretty impressive. And it's one of, like, it must have been one of, like, the starting points for modernist architecture. It was so significant and so influential. And it's, like, just one of the original examples with, like, the sleek lines, the basic color palette. It was, like, an absolute Kickstarter for it.
It's a beast of a project. I think that image is one of those that where if I close my eyes, I can actually see it. Because I think I've referenced it that much.
Sketched over it that many times, yeah.
I mean, that's what he did. Is it the Barcelona chair that's in there as well?
I think so, yeah.
The one with the curved cross legs.
Yeah. And then it's got a little statue around the other side. Amazingly, I missed this.
It's the columns that get people. The ones because they're cruciform in shape, aren't they? Where instead of being square or being circular, I think it is this one. Do you know when you're like so confident, because I've talked about it that much in my career? But they're mirrored and cruciform in shape rather than being like a rectangular or like an I-beam or anything.
Oh, yeah.
Which is just like attention to detail, overkill.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely...
That's how the Germans do it. I feel like if you're doing a building in Barcelona, you have to be attention to detail. And it's near a lot of other really significant buildings. It's near the International Museum of Art, which I believe they have a lot of, I want to say Picasso in. But I might be wrong, so don't hold me to that. It's also really close to Las Arenas de Barcelona, which is my next building. So you could...
What a segue.
What a segue. You could do both of these in one day. It's like Sagrada Familia, dedicate your day to it.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be there for hours. But this is an awesome building. It was originally a bullfighting ring built in 19... On my note, I said it was built in 1990 and held its last bullfight in 1970.
Did you mean 1890?
No, I mean 1900.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was built in 1900. It held its last bullfight in 1977. And then for this really traditional building, this really, really old style building, they thought, who knows how to build like that? The one, the only Richard Rogers. The most ultra-modern, high-tech architect that we've ever seen.
We get to use everyone's favourite archaeobolics term. Juxtaposition.
I put that in here with a few times. I'm happy to use the word juxtaposition.
Yep.
And I don't have an interior shot, but you can imagine what it looks like. And they must have been like, look, you're not allowed to touch the exterior facade, but do whatever the hell you want inside. And he did it. He pulled it off so well. And I'll have to pull up a picture of the interior because it's just like, you go in and it's just exactly what you'd expect. It's like the Pompidou Centre if you brought it inside.
Yeah.
He was like, if I can't put it on the exterior skin, I'm not hiding any of it.
Yeah, well, I suppose that was all part of his his style, wasn't it?
He was probably devastated when he found out he couldn't put any air vents around it.
Any like periscope vents poking out the top of that.
Yeah, but imagine going into there and seeing a high-tech shopping centre. Like, what the hell?
Well, I don't know. To be fair, I think it probably does work quite well because, like you say, it's a complete stark contrast.
Yeah.
Because I've never been to that, so this is like, I'm interested. I'm intrigued.
It's such a cool building. Now, the next one I've got isn't really a building, but it's more It's a market. It's the market Saint Joseph La Bouquiera, I believe.
Better than I'd have done it.
You go in and it's like one of the most famous markets in Barcelona, and it's just absolutely packed at all times of the day. You're like pushing
even the
through
picture you've got, it's like
it's
like white noise, but it's people at the bottom.
Yeah, literally. And that's got to be like a quiet time picture. But it's got this big grand entrance, and then you go in and it's just lined with all of the food you can imagine. They've got like this giant meat section. You know Granger Market?
I'm in.
you know Granger Market?
Yeah.
Imagine if all of the paths were like 2 meters wide and it was like 4 times bigger. And and all of Newcastle was shopping there at all times of the day. That's what it was like. And it's about halfway up this Ramblers, which is this obviously like ultra modern like shopping area with all these nice designer shops. And then just in the middle of it is this like Victorian market. And it started in 1820 when they started putting markets in, and then just kind of built and built and built.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of, if we didn't go there intentionally. We just had this little tourist map and we were like, what's that about halfway down? And you turn the corner and you see it and it's like out of context.
I mean, if you look like the scale of this photo, you can see all the people at the bottom, and you can see most of the people, as in it's not just their head, it's their torso as well.
Yeah, it's a tall
and it probably
roof.
takes up the bottom 1/10 of the image. This thing is massive.
I couldn't reach the top.
It's tall. That's very tall.
Yeah, and then you can kind of go out either side, and there's cafes and stuff surrounding it. But yeah, if you're just walking down this Ramblers, looking at like, just going to Primark or something, and then you see that and you think, yeah, I'll go get a dragon fruit and an entire pig.
Yeah, I mean, sounds good to me.
Cool. But yeah, those are my 5, and then my honourable mention, if you want to go see a football match, go to
what?
Camp Nou, which is home to FC Barcelona. I was looking at ticket prices. No picture on that, man.
Oh, right.
It's an honourable mention.
Oh, look at them. Oh, see, I've got photos of my honourable mentions.
It's the biggest stadium in Europe, 93,000 capacity.
Hell.
Yeah. That's larger than Wembley.
That's a fair few people, that.
Yeah. 1 or 2. But yeah, we didn't get to go to that because there were no footy matches on, and it was on the other side of the city. We were there for 3 days. We did 60. I think we did 70,000 steps.
It's not bad.
Yeah,
that is not bad.
It was a walking tour. You could walk the entire thing, but the public transport's great as well. But there's so many to say, and like, if it was just Gaudí alone, I could be here all day going into everything.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna not do that. I'm gonna pass it on to you.
Not so much for covering other things in the area. Covers one thing. So
also there's mountains. You could go to Montserrat.
Is there not a seafront on Barcelona?
You could go to Montgros, which my uncle broke his leg cycling down. They've got cable cars. They've got a beach. They've got sunshine. The weather, it rained 2 of the 3 days we were there. Which was great because all the other English people went inside. So it was just me and my mum walking around in our like beach clothes going, yeah, we're from the north.
Yeah, like I say, this is warm still.
Yeah. Oh, it was. It was lush
It's not
rain.
snow, it's water.
Everyone else was like buying them proper raincoats and we were like, no, this is quite pleasant. It's been a bit hot today.
It's the most British thing ever.
Yeah.
So I think fair warning, prepare yourself for me to mispronounce a lot of words. Because obviously my Icelandic is not fluent.
So for geography, I had to learn how to pronounce. I didn't have to learn.
But
I'll make that clear. Do you know E15?
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't said it in a while. But
The volcano.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure. Let's see if I look at the spelling.
See if you can remember how to say it.
Yeah.
The problem is most people in Iceland speak English, so whenever we've been over there, we just speak in English to people.
Yeah. Eyjafjallajökull. And I looked at it and like spent ages just learning it. I was in class and my geography teacher was like, Theo, you'll never get any marks for saying that. I'm like, no, I know, but it's a skill.
This will come in handy. And finally.
Yes. I've
Do you know
been
what
waiting for a long time to say that.
So the country I've chosen is Iceland. The city I've chosen is Reykjavik. And then I've gone through 5 buildings and then we've got some honourable mentions at the end. So the first one is
I'll wait until you say it.
I'm just looking at it going, in my head I'm going,
how many J's are in that word?
Only a couple.
That's less than usual.
I'm going with Hallgrim Skirkja. Basically, it's the main church it's basically the main church in Iceland, but it's also the main church in Reykjavik, and very similar to your, Sagrada Familia. It's
can't forget that.
It's right at the top of a hill, which
Yeah.
has probably got some sort of cultural significance, blah, blah, blah. But you can't miss it.
Yeah.
All roads lead to it. In fact, I've got some photos from when we were there last in 2022 for my wedding, where it was like, there's a big rainbow road all the way up to it.
Yeah.
You can't miss it. And it's signposted everywhere. Every gift shop has like trinkets of it. It's pretty damn popular. It was designed by, and again, I'm probably going to butcher his name, except for the second one, which I can get.
See, mine's really easy.
Oh my God. We're just going to have to talk over it and hope for the best.
It's really easy to pronounce the names of the architects from Barcelona because you only have to learn one.
Yeah.
So who designed that? Antonio Gaudí.
Well, this is done by Gudjon Samuelsson, and I have another building by him later on.
Yeah.
The two are very similar in their sort of design principles, but two very separate and disparate typologies and the way they've gone about designing it. Like I say, it's located right at the top of that hill. So the design from the church was commissioned in 1937. It took 41 years to build the church. So construction started in 1945 and ended in 1986. But the landmark tower that you see in the middle there was completed long before the actual church itself was finished.
I would say that's a really long time, but again, we just talked about the Sagrada Familia.
I'll give you that. So it's 74.5 meters or 244 feet if you use the wrong system. It's the tallest and largest church in Iceland and one of the tallest in its entire country. It's known for its the spine walls and the side wings that you can kind of see in that image there. I've got some really interesting photos of Grayson looking up at it. And it's been described as becoming like an important symbol for Iceland since it was completed. The church is named after an Icelandic poet and cleric, Hallgrimur Peterson, sorry guys, who was born 1614 and lived till 1674 and is the author of the Passion hymns. It's said to resemble trap rocks, mountains, glaciers of Iceland's landscape, in particular the Basalt columns. So if you look at our wedding photos, Hannah and I were stood on them, which has that organ pipe formation that you see there in sort of the main part of the building. There's another part behind that you can't see, which is a little bit less interesting, but still really cool. Such as the formations at Svartifoss, which I don't know that I pronounced it right. It's close enough. I heard it said enough times that I can try and replicate it. But you can go up the spire, which we've done both times we've been there. We went in February of 2016 and we went in June of 2022. And the two views completely different, because in 2016 there was so much like fog around that you had to focus on the near, whereas in July and June even you could see so much further out to the docks.
Yeah, you can go Sagrada Familia. I wonder how many times I'll say it. SF. Sagfa. No. But we forgot to, well, we didn't book it in time. We kind of did it all very last minute in that we want to go here today, so let's buy tickets. And getting up the towers is one of the things that is like just always sold out. Like if you're going to Barcelona, book your trip to the Sagrada Familia well in advance.
Well, we went to this, and you can buy the ticket from the gift shop, and you just kind of wait in the queue to go up the elevator, and then you walk the rest of the way, but it's incredible. So speak of the view out over to the sea, leads me on to building number 2, which is Harpa, the concert hall and conference centre. This is one of my favourite buildings.
That's really cool. Can I guess something that you're probably going to say anyway?
What?
Is that based off the basalt columns?
I imagine it's probably based off of some basalt columns, like the ones at Svartifoss.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of my photos as well. Actually, I've realised all the photos here are mine because
I tried getting mine in.
So yeah, I've been that many times. I've got that many photos. So the architect is Henning Larsen, who's a Danish architect. It's located essentially on the north shoreline. So if you travel north from and past the sculpture parks, go north and you'll get yourself to the seafront. And if you go east from I'm not going to try and pronounce its name again, but from that church, you will then eventually reach it. You can't miss it. No, the Hallgrim Skirk. Yeah, you can't really miss it. It's great. So a lot of what I'm going to do here is give you kind of almost a tour to hit these 5 landmarks, because they're all the city of Reykjavik. We walked across it every time we've been.
Not massive.
The first time we went, we were there for 1 day, and we did quite a lot of it. The second time we went, we were there for sort of 1.5, 2 days, and we saw a lot more. So this is easily doable in even a half a day. So it was started construction in 12th of January 2007 and was opened on the 13th of May 2011, so only 4 years. And now that I say 4 years, I think that's long. And then I remember 41 for this church, 100 and God knows what for yours.
Did God probably will know.
Yeah, God probably did know, yeah.
Only God knows.
Yeah.
Did your architect design this a couple of years after doing his biggest project ever that hadn't been built yet?
I think you win.
And was this his first?
I think you win on interesting facts. Oh, actually, no. The next one might get you. Yeah. So, like I say, construction started in 2007 but was halted for the financial crisis. The completion of the structure was uncertain until the government stepped in 2008, and then they basically got it finished. At one point, it was literally the only construction project in existence in Iceland.
Really?
Yeah, just because of the financial crisis. In 2000,
oh, right, not because it's a tiny country.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Well, I mean, that also. Yeah. It's when you look at it and say they've actually won the most Nobel Prizes per capita. They've won the most World's Strongest Man titles per capita because the capita is so small.
Per capita.
Because it's such a small country, obviously. Like, they get one, and per capita it beats America. So in 2013, the building won the European Union's Mies van der Rohe Award. And in 2017, it held the annual World Yo-Yo Contest, where over 1,000 contestants from over 30 countries competed for the 6 championship titles.
God, you're scraping.
Oh, it gets better. So the entire facade, obviously based on the basalt columns, it's also based on things like the Aurora Borealis, things like that.
Did you see them over the times you've been?
Sort of.
I've
seen them more.
I saw a nice picture.
Well, we went on a tour, which is part of my honourable mentions. You can go on tours from Reykjavik. We went on a Northern Lights tour. We didn't see it the first 3 nights, and on the last night, there was a moment in which the clouds had about this much, a tiny little opening in them, and you could just about see them, and it was easy to see them with the camera. However, we saw the Northern Lights in concert not too long ago, and I saw more of them here than I have in Iceland, even though I paid thousands of pounds to go to Iceland.
When we were there, we ended up getting a really, really nice view of them. It was insanely good. But the best, like, holy moment of seeing them, which I'm so upset I missed, was there were maybe 5 of us there. I was with my mum, and she went across the street to get some pizzas from Domino's, and there was this like car park in between our little hostel and the Domino's, and she said she left Domino's, looked up, and just saw the sky turn all different colours. Yeah. And she was like, it's the most amazing I've ever felt while holding a box of pizzas.
I don't know, I've done a few...
just standing in a car park, seeing them that clearly.
I've done a few dieting down for competitions and then come back out of a competition on a pizza, and I felt pretty good then.
Yeah, it felt like you were experiencing the Northern Lights.
But it was designed in conjunction with an artist, Olgfer Ellison, in his studio. It was inspired by the Northern Lights, the dramatic Iceland scenery, as I know we've mentioned. The largest auditorium, the Eldborg, is named after a famous volcanic crater in Iceland. Eldborg means fire mountain, which is awesome. Nice. The auditorium sits 1,800 guests, not quite as many as your football stadium. So the main idea behind the facade concept was to rethink the building as a static unit, allowing it to respond dynamically to the changing colours in its surroundings. It's also lit by, I think it's like over 700 LEDs, which come on at night.
Does it have different colours to represent?
It cycles through, but the glass itself, as you can see from that photo, the glass itself is tinted in different colours.
So I can't, and I was going to ask it, because I was looking at that thinking that's...
Is it a black and white photo?
No, it's blue and grey. Which is sad, because that's what I see. But yeah, I was wondering if maybe they'd tinted the glass to go with it, because that would be cool. I was thinking it's a shame they didn't.
Yeah. So
but
the facade obviously being geometric and everything, it's formed on like a modular space-filling structure called the quasi-brick.
Oh.
Do you see it now?
Yeah.
Is that a better angle?
That's blue.
Yep.
That's not.
There's a couple of like yellow bits stuff that go through it. It is really nice to be at. So if you skip to the next picture, you'll see, ta-da!
Oh,
That's one of the things up close. They're called the quasi-cube, quasi-brick even. Quasi-brick, quasi-brick. However you want to do it, Quasimodo. So building number 3.
the whole facade steps back, right?
So the whole, the whole facade sort of, it comes out at different bits in like different ways, and it steps out in angles, like horizontally as well as vertically. It's really cool. It's really cool from the inside.
So is that? So you see those kind of diamonds in the middle. I'm guessing, are they at an angle or yeah?
So it all sort of moves and steps up. So you've all of those sort of longer rectangular shapes are all pretty much vertical. I'm assuming there's some sort of degree in them, but they're pretty much vertical, and then it steps out through that way.
That's cool, groovy that.
So building number 3 is kind of a building. It's a building within a building, buildingception. This is Settlement Exhibition, or as it's sort of more colloquially. So this one is known as...
You can't even say English words.
I can't, no. So this is the Settlement Exhibition, also known as 871 plus or minus 2. Rolls off the tongue really easily.
871 plus or minus 2.
I'll explain that in a minute.
Is that the date of when it was found?
Yeah, and they can
or
date...
the date when they thought it was?
No, that was when they think it was... That was when it was built, and I'll come to that, a bit more on that in a minute. So it's inside the Reykjavik City Museum. There's loads of other sort of stuff like this. So this is basically one of the first ever turf houses, longhouses, etc. It goes through... This would be really good for students, and I suppose anyone who's looking to do more rammed earth or earth-based houses, because it's got a lot of information on how this kind of stuff works, and there's a lot of like actually passive principles inside it, which is really interesting to read. I've done quite a lot of I've been to this now, probably... No, I've been to this twice. I was going to say 3 times, but we didn't go back the third time. I just went to the gift shop separately because I needed to pick up a book, the book on Icelandic runes. So, but there's loads of turf houses throughout Iceland, which you can see a lot of this type of stuff from, including some turf churches. There's also a living museum that we went to, which is turf houses, and that's fantastic as well. So this isn't the only sort of instance of this, but if you're in Reykjavik, which chances are you probably are, this is a really good one to go see. So I have NA written next to the architect, because this particular property was built over 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, that's similar with my market. I was looking at who built it, and it kept going to St. Peter? No. St. Joseph. But that's who it was dedicated to. It was built by whoever's market was next.
Yeah, I would fancy doing it. So this is located sort of towards the centre of the city within Reykjavik. So if you travel, basically, it's almost a straight road from Harpa, the last building, to go straight down south and slightly off to the west. In terms of its actual build day, it's estimated to be 871 AD, not BC. Plus or minus 2, apparently. So the exhibition is actually based on an archaeological excavation of a ruin of one of the first houses in Iceland. It's located in 101 Reykjavik. The focus of the exhibition is the remains of a hall from the settlement age, which was excavated in 2001. The hall was inhabited between 1930 and circa 930 to 1000 AD. North of the hall are 2 pieces of turf, remnants of a wall which was clearly built before 871, hence the name of the exhibition. Precise data is possible because of a major volcanic eruption, and I'm not going to try and pronounce the...
Do it.
No.
Do it.
Which spread across the region.
Send it to me so I can do it.
No. You can try and put it in if you want later ones. But essentially, yeah, it can be dated based on that kind of the volcanic activity that came from it. But various
when it was destroyed.
Yeah, various methods are employed to explain and interpret the remains of the building. There's a lot of 3D imagery. There's kind of like a lot of electronic stuff going over the top of it. You can press buttons and it lights up certain areas and gives you explanations. Weirdly, at the time, Grayson will have been 4 turning 5. And even he was quite interested in, especially when you light up and you can see like certain bits of information. He's found that interesting.
Like when you go to the Centre for Life and you get to play with the Wallace and Gromit exhibit.
Exactly that.
Yep.
But yeah, there's a massive multimedia table and everything in the centre of it. But there's more to it than just this building. There's a lot more that kind of goes on around the edges, which is nice. Loads of touchscreen information with cultural stuff. It's it's really good. And then there's addition of a Vikings expansion and how they settled into the new countries and stuff. So it's more about overall things, but there's this building in there which, like I say, is probably really useful for people researching that type of stuff, or someone interested in architectural history. So if you're a student looking into architectural history as a subject, or just want to know more about it, this is a really good example. So moving on to building 4 is the University of Iceland, and you may recognise part of that form.
That looks a little bit like our Lord and Saviour up in Glasgow, but it also looks a bit Baltic-esque.
Oh, I was going to say it looks like the church because it's made by the same guy, Mr. Gudrun Samuelsson.
The 2 pillars look like the Baltic, and the whole window layout looks very School of Art, very Macintosh.
Yeah, so it's a very like Art Deco-y type building. So this is the University of Iceland. It's basically directly south from the museum above. So if you just keep going south, you'll eventually come to it.
It starts snowing.
Yeah, that's not one of my photos actually, because I realised the photos I had of it were awful.
It's very prison-y.
I think it's just the simplicity of it. Obviously, repetitive windows and everything.
Yeah, I think mixing Art Deco with the colour grey, and you suddenly get this big kind of 1974 is the name of the book. It gives a very kind of 1984 George Orwell-y type vibe of like it's this big, impressive building, but it's got that one colour that makes you feel like, oh crap, that's where the man lives.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean it's been there since 1940, so it's got a decent age on it. But yeah.
How long did it take to build?
You can kind of see. I have no idea. I didn't make notes on that, so we're just going to breeze past that one. But it was completely.
It was probably about 200 years, and it will be the one that you missed.
No, it wasn't that long. But yeah, you can kind of see it's very similar to like the Hallgrímskirkja, the church at the beginning, because it's by the same architect. Because he's obviously got that sort of design language in it, where you've kind of got the central piece and then the wings coming off it. Similar materials. It's, like I say, it's pretty impressive when you go past it. The photos never really do the scale of things justice, but it is on a sort of an active university campus. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting one to go past. So moving on to number 5.
It's a boat.
I've kind of picked an area.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of things going on in one space.
I think you can get away with that. I think I went for a market, but the market's kind of part of Las Ramblas. So I think that's fine.
Fair enough.
I think that fits the criteria.
So I'm going to pull this one in as the Old Harbour, just generally the Old Harbour. That is the sort of the accepted term for the area as well.
To be honest, if I was going to pick an area, my area would be Barcelona.
Barcelona.
Because there's a lot going on in there.
But the Old Harbour in Reykjavik, there's a lot of things that can be done in here other than seeing the architecture. So you've got things like the lava show, the Whales of Iceland, a flyover Iceland. The Whales of Iceland's fantastic. I've got some photos of that. Really enjoyed that. But the Old Harbour is essentially the Old Harbour. It's at the northernmost tip and slightly east of Harpa. So if you've come from Harpa, you've gone down past the museum as we've just described, and then you come back up on yourself, you can then take a veer off and get up to this. Yeah. And there's just so much going on. So the Old Harbour is the heart of sort of old Reykjavik. Obviously, it's probably the main port where things came in, where everything happened. But it's become sort of like a catalyst of transformation within the city. It grew around the harbour in the early 20th century because it became sort of the trawling industry. The harbour area has been transformed in the past few decades. It's still one of the most important harbours in Iceland, but in recent years, it's become a tourism hub for things like whale watching and things like that. And then gradually sort of these fishing vessels have been replaced with shops and restaurants that have occupied like the old warehouses or the old fishing houses, fishermen's houses and that. So it's like you've kind of got some of it where it's this old shell with this new interior, which is like a lot of architectural fit out. Then there's some which are like, you've got these small huts that are now also like little kiosky shops, tourism shops and that, with the same purpose as those old ones, but it's like a modern interpretation of that building. Then you've got these modern like office buildings, and you've got like restaurants and bars that are purpose built, so it's a very different, there's a juxtaposition. Like, I know we're using it again, but there's that like jarring contrast between the old and the new.
There's when you're allowed to use juxtaposition. I think when the exterior was built 100 years before the interior, you're definitely allowed to get away with it.
I mean, we spent like pretty much half a day here, and it's a really good way to do it because there's stores, cafes, museums. It gives you a lot of like glimpses into Icelandic history and culture. And there's also a lot of the sort of main culinary features and cultures and places that are actually in that zone. So you can really embrace all of the things that are in there. But yeah, you can sort of stroll around and see a lot of architectural fascination. There's like the old fisherman's huts, like I mentioned, converted into shops, ice cream parlours, and there's upscale restaurants, avant-garde galleries, art galleries, and then there's the fish meal factory. There's just so much. Everything is old and new again in one place, and you've got all of these like shiny condos and these like old wrecked ships in one. Like you can stand there and see the two things in one. These decrepit, destroyed wooden ships from hundreds of years ago, and these like probably finished yesterday type condos. It's incredible to stand in. But yeah, it get pretty overstimulated if you're not careful though.
Yeah,
there's a lot to it, and you kind of have to take it in little chunks. But like I say, there's things like the Maritime Museum, the whale watching, and a lot of tourism stuff in there. So you can skip to the next one. That's another shot of it, so you can kind of see some of the like the layers of history and information that's in that. It's incredible. So that's the Whale Museum. So the Whale Museum is a museum of whales. A lot of them, they've made these sort of like scale models of whales that are held up on like invisible strings from the ceiling, and so it's almost like you're in the water in there swimming around you. There's a lot of photos that Grayson and I took of us pretending to hold up the whales, and then there's
Leaning Tower of Pisa style.
Yeah, basically. And then there's a really good there's like which we found by accident, but Grayson really enjoyed it. Obviously Grayson, for those who haven't listened to another episode, is my 6-year-old son, who's autistic, has sensory issues and things, and there's a room where it's basically dark. There's a big projector of whales swimming around and whale noises, and then on the floor there's lots of like cushions and stuff for you to sit and lay on, and it's I think we were there for about half an hour and he was just mesmerised, and I think he came out of that very like relaxed. So it's nice. I mean, even I enjoyed it, and so did like Badger and Hannah that we went with. So it was a really good time. And then so other things to do sort of around the city. So these are kind of things that are also in the same area. This is a really nice sculpture called the Sun Voyager sculpture. It's basically east of Harpa. So you could probably we visited it between the church and Harpa. So you walk straight past it. It's just really nice. Obviously, you can tell by looking at it, reminiscent of like all of the history of Iceland and Vikings, etc. So a lot of these will include non-building. So the Whale of Iceland tour, there's the Northern Lights tours, so you can actually book into coach tours as well as sea tours. We did the Northern Lights tour when we went in February 2016, and the Game of Thrones tour. But we had a car, so we drove out to things like the Golden Circle and stuff like that.
Yeah, we rented a car while we were out there. Yeah, I think that was really useful, because if you know where you want to go,
it's really easy as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's like 2 roads.
No, there's one road that circles, which I travelled on in 2022 for the wedding. But then there's then basic roads that you can stick to even in the really poor weather that we had when we went in that February.
Did you have to get one of the cars with the massive tyres?
No, so the first time...
that's only when you go like through the middle, isn't
it? Yeah, and I don't think you can just rent one of those.
It's genuinely, it's like a van with monster truck tyres. And you stood next to it, and it's like up to you. It's up to my shoulders. I was going to say
the tyres are up to your shoulders.
Yeah. There's a picture of me like leaning against it, and then on top of it is just like a minivan.
Yep.
And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah, it is incredible, isn't it? So yeah, that's so there's all those tours and everything you can go on in Iceland, but if you get yourself a car, there's a lot of other things you can do and go circle, which I'll cover other places like Quirky, and that was probably in another episode.
Oh, I could do a whole other thing. When you're saying I didn't do many honourable mentions with Barcelona, I mean, there are so many. Like, I could do 3 different episodes on that city.
Yeah, for sure.
Insane.
Right, yeah, like that's why we tried to narrow it down to 5 things, because otherwise we'd be here all week.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's other things that you can do between. So a lot of people, they'll fly into Keflavik, and then they'll probably get a bus or rent a car or whatever to go up to Reykjavik. But along that route, you've got things like the Blue Lagoon, which you can go on either direction.
Yeah.
But then there's what people seem to advise that I found is that they go to which I didn't do, is go to the Flyover Iceland tour up in the old harbour, which I just mentioned, because you can see the entire city. They'll fly you over the entire city. You can see where all those landmarks are and guide yourself to them afterwards.
We just approached from a weird angle, so we kind of had to.
On the plane.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of these you can sort of navigate between each other. And then also in Iceland there is a penis museum.
I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah. So
they don't have a penis museum in Barcelona.
So I win.
Yeah. I tell you what, one thing I'm impressed about with that is if you would ask me, and to be honest, anyone who's been or anyone who wants to go, the 5 things they're most excited for, or the 5 things they like the most, it would probably be 5 geological features.
Oh, in Iceland.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
to be able
probably.
to pull out 5 things which aren't geological,
In one
in fact,
city.
9 things, is quite impressive, and it's something I didn't realise is how much they've kind of put into their building. Obviously, like the museum, the university, it's not the most impressive thing in the world, but it's still, you look at it, it's still very much like it's a unique building.
Yeah. And I think as well, a lot of it's significant to where they are. I mean, I could literally do an entire podcast on the churches of Iceland, because
it's all really...
I beelined for about 12.
It's sorry. It's all very context-based and very culturally significant. As you say, with that Alphys building, where it's all based off them basalt pillars, even with just this corporate building, they've put so much into where it is. Whereas you look at somewhere like, I don't know, well, just anywhere else, where is the geology that significant for a city? True. And for a whole country?
If you go to Ireland, I'm going to butcher the name because it's something to do with, it's like walking Giant's Causeway. Of course it is, yeah, Giant's Causeway, they've actually similar thing, but I mean, I'm looking out of a window over the rolling hills of the Derwent area and think, there's no buildings here that are inspired by them.
Look like a tree in a valley.
Yeah, basically.
Which, I mean, in fairness, try it.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
So the big question then is, where should we go next?
Where should we? Who's next? Who won?
You decide. But yeah, that would be the next thing, is to work out where we'll go next. Whether people want to see what we wear, whether or not people want to see where we'd go next, places we've experienced, because we're inevitably going to run out of places we've been. Yeah,
we've got very limited city tours we can do. One of my favourite things, if I was to do something similar to you, I'd go for Lanzarote, and I don't know what the major city is there, but everything there is very geologically relevant. They have this artist who I'm pretty sure is dead, but he's called Cesar Manrique, and he kind of like determined the cultural style for the whole island.
Yeah.
And so it's so like set in this one way. They're a really religious place, but they've got this like one significant artistic style, and it's all like about the volcanoes they've got that form this island. And that was an amazing place to visit. But that would be one of them where I'd be like, how would I pull up the buildings on this? I want to talk about that restaurant where they cook their food over an active volcano. How do you get the insurance on that?
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
What's your biggest risk? Oh, the ground underneath it might explode. Right.
That's pretty significant. Yeah, what's the chances of death from that? Pretty high.
Yeah, 100.
100%.
At some point, someone's in trouble. It's not dormant.
Oh, God. But, yeah, so that's anyone wants to see anywhere in particular, obviously we'll probably keep making some on the places we have been. And then after that, we'll probably do almost like a wish list for us.
Rome is a bit of a wish list, I think, but that would be like, God, that must be overwhelming for an architect for someone who studied the place to go to and then go, oh crap, it's all here.
I've seen that before.
Everything I've studied is here.
Yeah, but obviously I can cover a lot of Scandinavia because that's my thing. I can do Paris,
Europe, and Newcastle.
Oh, good. Actually,
we could do that. We could do some UK city tours as well, because that's a really realistic weekend getaway to a different city in the UK.
Maybe we test that as the vloggy type.
Yeah. You come over to Glasgow, we have a walk around. I come over to Newcastle, we have a walk around. But yeah, it'd be really interesting. Maybe we could put some type of poll up and see what people want to hear about for places.
Yeah.
Because it's one of them interesting things of like, obviously me and Mam went to Barcelona and we knew enough about it that we didn't plan anything.
Yeah.
And then got there and went, oh, we should have planned something.
Yeah, we planned Iceland meticulously.
Yeah.
But only because we knew...
when it's your wedding, it kind of...
Well, it's not... Well, we had the wedding plan to do the wedding, so we had a day where we didn't have anything planned other than get married, which I would probably argue quite a significant thing to have on the calendar.
Day. Yeah.
But other than that, we had like everything else bullet pointed, and then I suppose
if you're circling a country,
I mean, we had the major points in, so like hit Harpa, hit like these bits, and then here's some nearby things if we have time, or if Grayson's willing to go, or whatever. We just did things.
We got there on the first day, went at high speeds to the hotel. They told us where Sagrada Familia was. They were like, oh yeah, it's like a 5-minute walk. So we were like, screw it, let's go. We looked in, we were like, we're going to have to do this another day. This needs planning.
But yeah.
We impressed the people at reception because we kind of told them about where we walked, and they were like, "You've just walked across the whole city," and we're like, "Yeah, we're really tired." It's one of them of like, because it's a grid system, so you like never turn, so you can kind of just walk.
Walking.
Yeah, you just walk for like 5 miles. You kind of realize you're there because you haven't had to think about walking.
Yeah.
You're just looking at, you go, okay, we're going up this road. You get there, and then you're like, we've been going for ages. So it's incredibly walkable, but I would recommend getting on the bus.
Yeah.
And it's one of them of like, you learn how to say, I would like to go here, how much, in Spanish, and then you can pretty much do anything.
Just go anywhere.
Yeah. Tres cervezas, por favor. Then bring you 3 beers. And you go, oh, I wanted a white wine.
No, you didn't.
I wanted whatever they were bringing me. Tapas, por favor. Andre. But yeah, I think that pretty much does us for this one, doesn't it?
Yep.
Thanks for joining us in this episode. If you're listening on any podcasting platform, please consider leaving us a review. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe and leave a comment. Follow us on Instagram at Back to the Drawing Board IG.
And consider subscribing to our Patreon for as little as £1 a month. That's 3p a day. For bonus content, longer episodes, and to help build the community.
We'll see you next time when we return back to the drawing board.